Yeah.
Right, every board game, you're moving the wheelbarrow, you're moving the marble,
Yep.
you're dropping in the thing, right? You're picking up the card, you're moving the piece, you're counting the money. Right, somewhere in the world, somebody figured out that board games work because
Yep.
they're a physical movement of progress towards a goal.
Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, such a pleasure to see you again with your gigantic, I guess that's a brain diagram behind you, right?
Yes. Yeah, massive brain, and then they in the brain they've depicted everything that you think about in the course of a few seconds. So it's just yeah.
That's about right.
Yeah, this is how my brain looks. Yeah, if you were to take an actual scan and you could get JPEGs out of my head, it would look this jumbled.
Very much related to our topic today. Do you know that I just told my lovely wife that when you and I first met, we would have these, hour and a half long conversations. And towards the end, I'd be thinking, why is this guy still talking to me? I don't understand. Like he knows more than I do, and I have no idea what's going on. And I finally figured it out. It was two things. One is you're just an extremely nice guy, and we're enjoying having a conversation with me. The second thing is everything we talked about made you think of 3 or 4 different things that were either hilarious or really valuable that you wanted to tell me. And they were, like they were all spot on. Like it was a good hour and a half conversation. But I remember early on thinking, this guy's gone on the phone with me for like an hour and a half. Why? You have a lot of stuff going on that has grabbed your attention, and you've retained it.
Oh,
is that fair?
Yeah. Well, I've retained it for a short period of time, and that's why I have to share it with somebody before it leaves. Right? It'll
get it out
evaporate there. From I'll lose that synapse connection, and then I won't be able to access it anymore. And one of the things that's neat though is when I talk to you, right, it is stimulating from the standpoint of you do the same thing. You go, okay, that relates to this or this, and all of a sudden you have a better understanding of stuff. Earlier we were talking about going to Bible study, and we ended up talking about ancient Samaria and Anunnaki.
Right.
Like, how did we get there? And so, I think that kind of thought process and the way people's minds work brings us to our topic for today, which is around the topic of managing, leading people and coaching people who have ADHD or ADD.
All right, so that is our topic today: managing, leading, coaching people who have ADD, ADHD. We've already done something that I think is kind of interesting, and my interest in classical thought is that dialectic. When you and I are paying attention to this conversation, we're in tension and wrestling to the truth of what we're talking about here. A related proverb to that is, when one teaches, two learn. Is that deep? You like that?
That was good.
So that's good, isn't it? So I think I know I'm about to learn. Maybe you're going to further enhance your understanding of this, but I have to start it off with one big gigantic question, which is, what the heck? Why are we talking about this? Why is this? I mean that's in love, but why is this a topic? And I'm sort of joking with you because I kind of know, but why this topic?
Okay, no, that's a fantastic question, and the answer is very simple. We spend a lot of time in automotive dealerships, consulting, coaching, working with those folks, and if you spend any time in there whatsoever, they self-profess. They're either clinically or self-diagnose themselves with ADD or ADHD, and they'll and they look at it as a superpower. So I'm on, doing this job, and in the retail world, I've got an angry customer, and then I've got to fill out some reports, and then I got to follow up with this person, and then stuff just comes at them from multiple directions. And we see people who fail in this world because they can't deal with the amount of stuff that's coming at them. But people with ADD just are like, this is great. Every 2 seconds, there's a distraction. This is the best day ever. And so they thrive really well in this environment. We talk about every strength, if overplayed, is a vice. And so the vice of this strength is when it comes to consistent execution long term of anything, this is a struggle. And so we find this in our stores. It's one of the reasons that we're employed, because we can consistently stay on track and then therefore help them consistently stay on track. And we hear this all the time. It's only when you're here do we sit down, do we stop, and we think about bigger picture things, and we talk through stuff in detail and come to conclusions and action steps. And ADD, right. ADHD is part of what's going into this. So that's how I got here.
Beautiful. It's like Icarus, right? Icarus does have a superpower. He's got these wax and feather wings that take him out of prison, and he can fly. But I think his dad warns him, don't fly too close to the sun. Fly over the prison walls, but don't go too close to the sun. But he takes it all the way up. The wax melts because of the sun, and he falls to his death. So we don't want any of that happening. We want people to be able to engage the superpower and keep on moving. And you're right. We are often the institutional memory for our clients. They talked to us a month ago about this cool thing and set some commitments. And sometimes we're coming back a month later saying, what did you do with that? I'm like, oh yeah, we had 3 big things happen and we got off track. Let's get back on track. So you have some ideas, I'm gathering, around keeping people on track.
Yeah, it's I did some research and I came across Dr. Russell Barkley. And Dr. Russell Barkley seems to be it's one of those things where you have to research everything now to find out, okay, is this guy,
is he legit?
Really, is he self-promoting? Is he just trying to be an influencer, or is he really an expert in this particular field? And from what I can discover,
a wonderful point.
Yeah, he is the man. I ran across a talk that he gave in 2012, which was really amazing, and we'll link to it in our show notes, because we're fancy like that. And so, I researched in 2012, he was the man on this topic, and then if you look now, 11 years later, he's still the man on this topic. And I think one of the things that makes him, very relatable is he's a doctor. He's got all this, this knowledge, but he breaks it very, very simple. And so, one of the things that he first starts out talking about is what we talk about is will and skill, right? Mm-hmm. There's knowing what to do, and then there's doing it. And his belief is that, from his research, what he found out is ADHD just separates those two things within the brain. Right. The one part of the brain is all about, doing things, and the other part knows how to do the thing. But if you separate those two, then people know what to do, but people with ADD can't do it, and they can't do it consistently. Right. So his thought is, right, you can tell people what to do all day long, and it'll never leave your office. Right. Once they walk out of your office, they know exactly what to do. They just don't have the ability to follow through and do it on a consistent basis because, all this stimuli is coming in. All right. Everything is coming at them from different directions. And for an ordinary person, without this, they can focus. I heard one person say it's like having a spotlight. And so if you got a spotlight, and think of spotlight as your attention, right? So I've got the spotlight and it's a narrow beam. And so I can focus it on things and only see those things for a set period of time. But people with ADD, they just have a room light. They got an overhead ceiling light. Right?
They're seeing it all.
Yeah, I see it all. And so somewhere within that is the thing I'm supposed to do, but I also see everything else. And so I know exactly what to do, but all this other stuff is distracting. So Dr. Russell Barkley came up with some pretty simple ideas that are researched and verified. And I love his nomenclature. He says, if we want these people to succeed, we have to build scaffolding around them. And we have to build support systems around them that will help them to stay on track and to stay focused. And he talks about something we've talked about, which is gamification. People with ADHD, ADD can play a video game for 8 hours. And he's like, they're completely focused on this thing. And so when they researched it, what they found was, video games, whether you're ADD or not, right? They have these systems built into them where there's levels, there's tokens, there's points, there's timelines, there's deadlines, there's tasks, right? And
achievements.
Achievements. So once you have all that, a person with ADD with those systems in place can stay focused. So that's kind of how we got here. Go ahead.
Yeah, you just got me thinking about the ones that I've known. They're that whole skill and will being separated makes a ton of sense, because if you have them engaged and focused on a conversation, they have all the right answers. If you have them in the moment, tackling a customer issue or whatever it is, they can be quite brilliant in doing that. But it's the consistent use of their knowledge in the moment that is the problem. It's marrying those two back together. And I can see how gamification would make that happen, because I'm going to consistently keep going back to, making that achievement, climbing that level, whatever it is that it would be. So, okay, I'm sorry. You just got me musing there.
All right. No, musing is why we're here. We hope there's musing going on with our audience, both of them. So the opportunity, what makes his talk different, right? Because we've talked about scoreboards and gamification and things like that. But one of the things that he stresses that I'd never thought about before is that you have to make the scoreboard physical. It has to be a physical, actual object that we use to keep score. And when you think about it, this makes perfect sense. Think about every board game you've ever played.
Yeah.
Right? Every board game, you're moving the wheelbarrow, you're moving the marble, you're dropping in the thing, right? You're picking up the card, you're moving the piece, you're counting the money. Right, somewhere in the world, somebody figured out that board games work because they're a physical movement of progress towards a goal. And apparently, whether you have ADD or not, we like that. It is focusing. It's fun for us. And so, we took a look at this. We talked about this in an episode a couple episodes ago, where we talked about the adding machine tape in the accountant's office. Right, that's an example of the physical manifestation of the work that's being done, and there's a
tangible progress.
There's a pride that comes with that. And so what he talks about is you build physical reminders, right? The abacus or abacus, depending on where you're from. Right, that would be an example of a physical measure, right? So every time I do the thing, I slide the bead over. For you young people, you can Google this. It's an ancient device, and there's beads on a wire, and you slide them over as you accomplish different tasks. And so I started working with some of my stores on this, and I've got a few that are all in. And some of the things that we're doing is, each salesperson got a mason jar, a glass see-through mason jar on their desk with their name on it. And every time they make an appointment phone call, they take and put a marble in the jar. Right. And so literally they can see physical progress as they're doing their tasks. The jar is filling up. And as simple as this seems, right, the jar is always there. It's always within their line of sight. So I can't see the act of making an appointment. Right, that's a mental thing. But I can see, right, my jar is empty, and I can look around the room and go, oh man, my jar is the fullest, or my jar is completely, in last place. So I can see, how do I compare to other folks? One of the things that we looked at was, in the case of car sales, right? 12 cars would be a really good month. So we hit upon a system, right? I have an example here. So
Okay.
got a little.
So let the record show that Mike is holding up a Hot Wheels toy transporter. It's like a big rig with a window on the side of the trailer that has slots for Hot Wheel cars. And I'm going to take a wild guess that you get to put a car into the side of this thing when you sell it, or whatever it is that is the goal for that person.
Oh yeah. So the goal is 12. All right. So we haven't practiced this ahead of time. Where am I at in relationship to my goal, Mark?
Very quickly, I'm going to do a math that says 11 of 12 is what I see.
Yeah, there's one empty slot. Yeah, so there's 12 slots.
I need to sell a car today.
Yeah,
I just need one car for this month.
I gotta fill that slot. I gotta get that last car so that I can reach my goal of 12. And so without any explanation of the system, you could look at it and go, wow, I see where he's at. I see what he's accomplished. I see what's left to go. Right?
Yeah.
And it's physical in nature. So I have to take the car either out of my drawer, maybe my manager gives it to me, and I put it in the slot, and then I fill up the 12 slots. So at the beginning of the month, it's empty. All right, halfway through the month, I can tell if I'm ahead, behind, how am I tracking, that type of thing. I don't need to go into the computer. I don't need to look on a spreadsheet. I know, and this physical thing sits literally on my desk in front of me every single moment that I'm at work.
That's great.
So I've got this reminder. I've got some guys, they're using poker chips. So they got the mason jar and the slot in it. And every time you set an appointment, you get this color chip. And if your appointment shows up, you get this other color chip. And then the chips can be redeemed for prizes, right? So there's a roll of envelopes filled with prizes, nothing elaborate. The prime parking spot, snooze button, right? If you get this envelope, you can come in 2 hours late one day. But just some way for them to redeem their chips at the end of the month. So I'm tracking the activities. There's a fun game. There's like we talked about in the last episode, you're gathering around the scoreboard. In this case, it's envelopes, right? You show up with your jar. You redeem your chips for envelopes off the board, and everybody has some fun with what's inside.
That's great.
So externalizing the motivation, right? I've got another guy, and he's got a chessboard, and he's got the salesman's faces pasted on the pieces, and as they move down the chessboard, so you got everybody moving across the chessboard, to see who can get to the other side the quickest. So, the beauty of this is Amazon has everything, right? You can order it next day. You can have marbles, poker chips, jars, chessboards, whatever you want. That's the world we live in now. The other thing he talks about that ADHD and ADD people, and I truly believe we're all, affected with this to some degree, is, breaking up tasks into time frames. Whether I set a timer, whether I set I want to have this done by the end of the week, this by the end of this week, that they people with ADD or ADHD, they don't have a sense of time. That's why they can play a video game for 8 hours and miss work, because I couldn't focus on the other stuff, and then B, I don't have the internal clock that other people have. And so time literally escapes me. And when you think about this, I think we all have this just based upon my experience in school. We talked about this last time. If the teacher gave you 6 weeks to do a report, it took 5 weeks and 6 days. And so if she gave you 6 days to do it, it took you 5 days and 24 hours, 23 hours. So this whole thing is like that. So I've got to break it down into, and we see this, I just was talking to somebody from one of my stores yesterday, and they came out with a fast start program. If you sold this many cars by the 10th of the month, right, there were prizes and games, and we were all going to, do some fun stuff. Right. So instead of waiting till the end of the month when we have this big flurry of sales activity,
Yeah.
they broke the month into 2 time frames and generated a whole bunch of activity earlier within that scope of that month. So yeah, we know this works, right? We know this stuff works. So I've been on my soapbox here. Keep in mind, we are not medical professionals, so
No, no, no.
right, not recommend anything along those lines. But from a
Right.
human performance, human coaching standpoint, there's definitely something to be taken away from here. I think in the work from Dr. Russell Barkley. So I've gone on too long. What do you think? Do you see applications for this in your world?
Well, I do. I absolutely do. And frankly, for me, as much as for a client who might identify as having some sort of attention disorder, because I think, to your point, we all have this to some degree. We are bombarded. We have constant distractions, things demanding our attention, vibrating on our wrist and in our pocket, and every computer around us, and every screen around us. So I can see how all of these make a ton of sense, but I think the one that I'm really hitting on is just making it tangible. Makes a ton of sense, that if I can see it in front of me and touch it and hold it, it's just really different from, I'm going to pull up an online system that shows me as red, yellow, or green on a particular task.
Mm-hmm.
That's not sticking in my memory. It's also why I've got a physical notebook on my desk where I write things down, that sticks with me more than just when I have it in my computer. I'm not saying computers are the devil or anything like that. They have a role in my whole work process when I'm writing something, for instance. But the tasks have to go into that notebook because that's physical and I can scratch them out and so on and so forth. So yeah, I buy it. I buy it, and you're obviously seeing some success with it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've got some stores that are doing really well with it, and just the sound of joy in your voice when you uttered the words "scratch it off."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just even saying the
It
word.
feels good.
Oh yeah, that's nice. There's definitely a dopamine release, with that behavior. And so yeah, this is the part, and we've talked about this before. Is the managers will say, right? They'll take the path of least resistance and say it's all in the computer. They can look this stuff up anytime that they want. But
Right.
that's not how we perform at our best. And
Yeah.
I think everybody can benefit from this, and people with ADD or ADHD uh, will benefit even to a greater degree. And so
That's
part of
awesome.
our job as leaders and coaches is to build this scaffolding. In this case, the scaffolding is a physical uh, embodiment of the completion of tasks.
A physical embodiment of the completion of tasks. That's what this episode is about.
Yes,
I love it.
we it's neat
I
that
love
we
it.
figured it out before it was over.
Well, I told you we'd wrestle to the truth,
Yes.
It's really good.
The
You
so
know, frankly, even just I get a little dose of dopamine just by writing something onto my task list. It's like, oh, finally, that's out of my head. Relief. Now I can get back to focusing on the thing that I'm supposed to be doing right now. So I can imagine this would have a big impact on somebody who has a legitimate diagnosis of a attention disorder. So it's really cool, Mike.
Oh yeah. Well, and if you want to diagnose yourself, just scan your work area if you're at work listening to this and count the post-it notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got 72 post-it notes and you admit
Yeah.
that if it's not on in a post-it note and in front of me, it's got a good chance of being lost, you're probably who we're talking about. As
That's inaccurate.
as I look at the plethora of post-it notes all around my wall. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying I know it's me. It might be you too.
It probably is. And for what it's worth, I just got a text message that lunch is ready, so I gotta go.
Oh, that's
Just
so
like the other
distracting.
things that are demanding my attention right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's probably a grilled cheese and some tomato soup. Just yeah, waiting your
It
consumption.
might be. I got 3 other things to think about anyway, so I don't know. I might remind myself to let you know later. I don't know.
All right, yeah. If you could write a note and then cross it off.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Write a note. Yeah. All right. So last thing, do you ever do something that's not on your list, write it on the list, and then cross it off?
I have done that 100%. Yeah, 100%.
That's the best.
With zero shame.
With zero shame. Yeah. This is a judgment-free zone. There's no shame. It's just yeah. It's just part of your, in this case, your dopamine addiction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna write this on there and scratch it off because that feels so good. Oh yeah. Look at this. I've accomplished so much. So
Well, and I'm a completist. That's part of the problem. Like you got to have the whole list there. Like, that's what I did today. I better put it on the list. Yeah.
oh yeah. And we're not going to judge you for being a completist. Nothing wrong with that. That is a good thing. We need more people in the world who are completists. And I don't know how often you meet, but yeah, more people need to go to the meeting.
I'm done.
You're done. All right. We know who isn't done, and that's our always on call announcer standing by. Take it away,
So true.
Mr. Wolf.
And that, I guess, is that. It doesn't take a genius. No rights reserved, nothing trademarked, copyrighted, or even original. Feel free to give it to anyone, anytime, using any and all media formats. Warning, Mark and Mike may or may not make another one. I'm your announcer, and I did not get paid a nickel to do this. They won't even let me tell you my name. So until next time, if there is a next time, stay safe, be well.
That's good enough.